Hello, Mr. Foley here, and this is going to be a kind of redo of my first video. I was having some difficulty with lagging, and so I'm going to redo that video. I think I have it all figured out now, so this should be good. So we are talking about multiplying bases of 10 today, and bases of 10 are the places of our place value system. So if you can think of all of the places, the ones place, the tens, the hundreds, the thousands, and 10,000s, 100,000s, and so on. Those are all bases of 10. On the decimal side of our place value system, the tenth, the hundredth, thousandth, and so on, also those are bases of 10. Those are decimal bases of 10. On the other side, we have whole number bases of 10. So just remember, those are bases of 10, and that's specifically what we're talking about multiplying by. So what I'm going to do is I wrote 5 numbers here, and they're all the same, and I made them so that they're kind of in numerical order if you take away the decimal 1, 2, 3, 4. So all of those numbers we would say are 12 and 34 hundredths. And I'm going to start in the middle by multiplying the number by 1. And we're going to start with that because we know the identity property of multiplication. Anytime we multiply a number by 1, we get the same number. It's identical. So this is a good place to start, and this number will be the same. Everything's the same. All the digits are in the same places. The decimal point is in the same place. Everything is the same, and it's very simple. Start there because it's a good reference as we move forward. Going up, I'm going to go to larger whole numbers, so we'll do 10. Okay, now I want to look at a couple ways of seeing this. When you have a question like this, of course, on a test or something, you want to get it right, and you're looking at it going, now what do I have to do? I can't remember. It's really not that hard. I'll show you a couple ways of looking at it. One thing I do is I like to isolate a digit in the whole number side if I have one, like this 2, and forget about all the other digits. Just look at the 2 and think about multiplying that 2 times 10. See how simple that is? You know that that 2 times 10 is 20. So what that tells me is my answer needs to have a 2 in the tens place. Now we can't move digits around. We can't put zeros in between digits. All of those digits in my answer must be in that order, 1, 2, 3, 4. The only thing that's going to be different when we're multiplying bases of 10 is where the decimal point is. Everything else will have to be in the order. So I already know that that 2 has to go into the tens place. So that's one way of thinking of it. Now, the other thing we talked about in school is MrDL. And MrDL is just a way to remember that we multiply, when we're multiplying, we move the decimal point to the right, and when we're dividing, we move the decimal point to the left. Now, that's not exactly true all the time, and I'll get to that in just a minute, but it's a good guide to remember for whole number multiplying by bases of 10, and of course dividing, which I'll do in another video. So now let's go ahead and see if we can write this out. So we want the 2 to be in the tens place. So I'm going to start writing the digits, the 1, the 2. Now the 2 has to be in the tens place, so I'm going to keep going with the ones place, which is the 3. And now I'll go ahead and insert the decimal point, and that establishes my places, right? From the decimal point left is the ones, and then the tens, and that's where I want that 2 in the tens place. And then I continue putting in the rest of my digits, which is a 4. So my answer is 123 and 4 tenths. That's moving the decimal, and that's generally what I do. Now I want to mention something else, and that is that on a lot of tests and well, tests that you'll see, sometimes teachers will teach it this way. You'll see it maybe in a book or something. But they also talk about moving the digits. And so it's important that you understand that while we can move the decimal point and get to the answer, another way is to shift the digits. And in this case, the digits shift in the opposite direction, and they shift to the left. Now, anytime you shift a digit one place left, you are essentially multiplying it by 10. So it's just another way of looking at it, and it's important to realize that they're the same thing, but understand that you might see it presented in either way, and understand that it's really the same thing. So multiplying by 10 will shift the digits one place to the left, And you can also think of it as moving the decimal point one place to the right. So don't get confused on that, but just understand it's the same, same thing. So let's move ahead to our next base 10 number, and that's going to be 100. And so now notice, I want to point this out before I move forward. Notice that there is 1, 0, and 10, and we move that decimal point one place to the right. Now, having said that, there are 2 zeros in 100, so what do you think we're going to do? We're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. But let's go back and look at our number 2 in isolation like we did on the other one. Just that 2. Forget all the other digits. You have a whole number 2 in the ones place. What is 2 times 100? Okay, see how easy that is? You know that's got to be in the hundreds place. That 2 must be moved to the hundreds place because we know 2 times 100 is 200. So I'm going to go ahead and write those digits out here. And I have to get the 2 in the hundreds place. So that means the 1 is going to be in the thousands place. 2 goes in the hundreds place. And then everything follows. 3 is in the tens and 4 is in the ones. Now remember, this is a whole number. You don't always see a decimal point on a whole number. And when we're doing things like moving decimals, we have to know where the decimal is to begin. So if you see a number, any number, without a decimal point, you can always put one in there, and a lot of times you have to. So you always want to put it to the right of the number. I'm going to go ahead and put it here, but just understand if you don't see a decimal, it's okay to add one. And I'm going to put it right there so you know where it goes, okay? So look at a single digit, multiply it by your base 10. Think about the place where it goes, like the 2 in the hundreds, the 2 in the tens, okay? That's one way of looking at it. Using MrDL for whole numbers, remember these are whole numbers, move the decimal to the right. Number of zeros tells you how many places to move the decimal. Or shifting the digits are going to go, again, number of zeros to the left. They're going to get bigger, right? Multiplying by 10, you should know the number is going to get bigger. Multiplying by 100, even bigger. So that's how we do whole numbers. And now we're going to go and look at decimals where things kind of flip-flop, okay? So think about this. If I multiplied a number larger than 1 and my product was bigger, what do you think is going to happen when I multiply a number smaller than 1? What's going to happen to my product? And of course, you should know it's going to get smaller, right? That's going to happen. So here we're going to look at a few things a little differently. And MrDL is no longer going to help us here. We have to be careful with that so we don't get confused. But let's go back to where we started, and that is looking at this 2 all by itself in isolation. Now you should know multiplying 2 by itself, just 2, times 1/10 is 2/10. So there again, I know that 2 has to move into the tenths place. So that's one way of looking at it. Now, if I was moving the decimal to the right, making my number bigger, you should think about that and say, well, which way does my decimal point have to move to make my number smaller? And it's not right, it's got to be left, okay? So let's take a look at this. We're going to actually make the decimal go left now. We know that 2 times 1/10 is 2/10. So I'm going to put the 1. Let me change colors here. I'm going to put the 1. Put the 1 there. Now, in order for the 2 to be in the tenths place, I'm going to have to put a decimal point. Then the 2. That puts my 2 in the tenths place. Now I'm going to put 3 and 4. So there you go. 1 and 234 thousandths. We'll go to our next decimal base 10, which is going to be 100th. Repeating the same steps. We're going to look at the 2 in isolation. And 2 times 100th is going to be 200ths. So now the 2 has to go into the hundredths place. So now I'm going to have to start with a decimal point to do this. And sometimes if you want, you can put it, if you're not sure, put a decimal point kind of in a spot, make a couple of place value lines so you can fill it in. This is just another method. And now I could say, well, I know the 2 has to go in the hundredths place. I know that this is the hundredths place, so I'm going to put the 2 here. And then kind of just fill everything else around it, right? 1 has to go here, 3 has to go here. I should have put another line, I'll do that now, and then the 4 would go here. And so that just kind of forces you to put them in the right place. So 1,234 ten thousandths is the way we would say that. Now, if you're getting it and everything and you can remember, it's maybe a little confusing, but for these decimal bases of 10, we can switch things around because they do kind of flip-flop, and we can think of doctor. This time we'll use doctor, which means divide right, ML, which now means multiply left, and so that can help you, but don't get confused. If you're going to remember one of them, remember MrDL for whole number, but also just use these other methods here as well that I showed you so that you can look at a digit in isolation and then just kind of work with that, and then go to the more difficult part of it where you fill in the digits around it, because all those digits have to be in the exact same order. So this is a redo of my first video. If you're watching this, I will have already taken the other one down. Hopefully this works great, and I'm going to make some more videos, try to get them up as soon as I can so that you guys can do a little refreshing and get ready for that FSA and be awesome at math. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much and have a great day.